Mathur Kumar's new book, Operation Payback. And it's about a Veer Nari, who is a warrior widow. I'd like to call, a warrior widow rather than a war widow. So let me just give you a little history. Aditi and I share a little bit of history. We met for the first time in 2016 at the Military Literature Festival. And she had spoken about her book, Soldier and Spies, there. And it was a very humorous book. And I mean, everyone enjoyed the book thoroughly. And I remember when she was speaking about the book, she said, one thing that stands out for me is what she said was, as a new army wife, how the lady was confused between a JCO and a GOC. And anyone who understands the army and the hierarchy in the army will know how starkly different these two are, the JCO and the GOC. And coming from there, now she has written this book, Operation Payback, which is a very emotional and sensitive book, as I said, about a Veer Nari. So, we also have Deepthi Talwar, who is Aditi's editor and she's the executive editor at Penguin Random House India. And so we'll have a lot of insight into the world of publishing as well. So I'll start with you, Aditi. So coming from the earlier book, which was very humorous, and to this, very emotional and sensitive book, how did this come about, and what was the inspiration? Do tell us something about this book.
Okay, so yeah, like you mentioned, Soldier and Spice, and it was humorous. It was like a slice of life story where someone from a complete civilian background gets married to an a soldier, and how her life changes. So it was fun. It was funny. It had its moments of sadness as well, but it's like a feel-good story. This is also a feel-good story, but it's somebody called it revenge fiction, revenge fantasy, and I like it. I like the term. So how did I go from a funny contemporary piece, humorous piece, to writing about a Veer Nari? Is because I met two real Veer Naris who decided to join the army.
Wow, that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful,
and
yeah.
I could not imagine for the life in me that why would someone choose to join the same profession which has taken their husbands away from them, right? I mean, it just did not make sense. And I spoke to them and spoke in the sense that one is a friend. The husbands were course mates, and he was martyred, and then she said, you know what, I'm going to join. And she was an engineer before. So that's how. And I thought, and I've always believed, we've also spoken about it, that stories from the army need to be told. There's so many stories, but we only end up hearing about what the soldiers' side of the story is. But what about their families? What about their kids, their parents, their wives, or spouses? So this story, I thought, needed to be told, but I do fiction better. So I fictionalized it, and I put the revenge part to it, and yeah, so that's how.
So the revenge part has come out wonderful. So yes, you're right, stories about the army, about the armed forces, and not just those in uniform, those who are not wearing the uniform, the entire support system, those stories also need to be told, right? So that's a wonderful book that you have there. And now let's come to you, Deepthi. I'm sure as an executive editor at Penguin Random House India, which is the biggest one in India, the publisher in India, and I'm sure you get a lot of manuscripts. I'm sure you get a pile of manuscripts. So what is it that stood out in what Aditi sent to you?
It's actually, this is working? Okay. So Aditi and I have been working together for 10 years. I also edited Soldier and Spice, and I've met her for the first time yesterday, so it's really something. But that manuscript came in, Soldier and Spice, and we talked. I remember she explained to me why she'd written the book. And I know you say it's humorous, but for me, the scenes that I remember so much are, you know, towards the end, and which are, it's really the reality, I think, of families, of our soldiers and what they sacrifice. But this one, you know, absolutely, when she told me just the concept, she sent me a couple of lines, I was like, write it quickly, please, you know. I knew it's a book that, it's a story that had to be told. It's incredible, you know. And I think particularly for me, someone who comes with like no exposure to army life, it's really important for all of us to understand the sacrifices that our soldiers make and their families make. And it's really inspiring story. I knew I wanted to publish it immediately.
And so how long did it take for the book to come about?
I have come, yeah. I had a concept. Long story short, I had a concept which I discussed with Deepthi, and we said, all right, let's get to it. But I wasn't able to get to it. And then I think I drew a framework of the story, and then I got to go ahead. And then I wrote it in like, I think 4 months. Then the process.
That's very fast. And
after the framework.
But the editing also like took a couple of months.
right. All right. So in this book, what really stands out for me is the strong women. I especially liked one line, and what Aditi says in her book. She says, "She who waits also serves." Usually, when we're talking about heroes, we assume that the heroes are always in uniform. The army heroes are usually in uniform, that's what you would assume. But when Aditi says, she who waits, the lady who is waiting for the officer, for the man, she is also serving in the Indian army just as much as her husband is serving. So Aditi, I would like you to elaborate. I'd really love that line.
And as a soldier yourself, you know that the families are waiting, right? I mean, when I had just gotten married, I just thought, is this going to be my life now? Always waiting for him to come back from the exercises or from various postings and stuff like that. But this is a saying that, you know, I heard a very senior officer's wife once say. And it just struck me that it's actually true, because not only those who are in the uniform, at the borders or in troubled areas, they are obviously serving, they're doing their duty. But the part of their lives, which is their kids, their bills, their houses, their parents, their everything else, right? Who's taking care of it? The fact that the soldiers can do what they do without worrying about all these things back home is because there is somebody holding the fort back home. So in a way, that is also serviced. And I think it is very important that, you know, people know that, and it's not for me, right? I'm not talking about me, I'm not talking about someone, some individual. The entire tribe, it's incredibly supportive, it's incredibly resilient, and it's a courage of a different kind. You know, it's one thing to have a traveling job where, you know, your partner is away traveling overseas or wherever, and it's completely another for them in 2023 to be at a position where, you know, there are no cell phone signals, or you would not hear from them for 3 days. It seems unheard of, but this is how it is. And this is, I think, that's why I believe that that is also service, because, you know, there's so many missed PTMs, missed birthdays, occasions, so many of them. Who's taking care of it? She is who's waiting back home is also doing the entire thing, right? That's why.
Totally agree, because I have been a person who has been in uniform and has been also a lady wife, you know, out of uniform. So I respect the wives more now, because because I totally understand what it takes to hold fort when the person in uniform is away. So that's really great. Also now continuing with the strong women aspect, in your book, Aditi, I admire also the fact that, there are other strong women characters, not just the main protagonist. There is the mother-in-law and the mother who stand by the protagonist's decision. Right? And I find them to be really strong characters, because when the males of the family weren't there by her side, these ladies stood for her. So I just want to know, is it because you see that around you, you see strong women around you, you see that women are supporting women more today than earlier? Considering that we used to have these Saas Bahu serials earlier, right? So I don't think, or I'm not sure, so would like to hear from you, do you think that things are changing now, and women are actually supporting women?
I think I've always been incredibly supported by women. Yes, there is the Sajbahu serial thing that was always, good for entertainment for whoever likes it. But you're right. As the older I get, the more I realize that women friendships are something that carry you through life. Uh, it's support, it's unconditional love, it's also encouragement where it's required, and it's also just knowing that if you've not met for 10 years, if you've not seen each other, one of my best friends is sitting here and we've not met for 10 years, no, 5 years, 5. It will not take forever for you to start. You know that the support is there, love is there, and I think wherever there's an opportunity, these are the women who will take your name. Like the famous saying goes that be friends with women who will take your name in a room full of opportunities, and I think it's happening more and more in my life. Maybe I'm lucky, but also because I think things are changing. Also because women are going out more and knowing that, I think like me they're also realizing. But like I said, if for me from the beginning it's been very supportive. And coming back to the characters, the mother and the mother-in-law are so strong and and they display strength of different kinds. One is out there saying yes, yes beta, I will support you if you want to join the army, and the other one is very silent in her support, but she's like, you know what, you have to train for the training, so I'm going to feed you well, I'm going to make sure that your father's anger at this decision doesn't ruin things for you too much. So all of this is from real life examples only, right? We've seen women like that, we know them, we are them, right? So yeah, that is.
Yes, I think things have changed from the times where people used to enjoy those Saas Bahu serials. I don't think people enjoy them anymore now. All right. So coming to you, Deepthi, how are these stories set in the armed forces, set in the army or Navy and Air Force? I don't think there are any. I don't think there's much fiction written, right? Not that much. So how, as a publisher, how do you find, do these stories actually resonate with the readers?
No, absolutely. And in fact, as we were chatting earlier, we've created an imprint particularly for this kind of story because we've realized that people do resonate with them. I think everyone is interested in an inspiring story, right? You want to read about story, like a person or who has overcome incredible challenges. And the army is full of them. So these stories are absolutely things that the books are doing really well. And we created this imprint just to get like more focus on it, and also just to be able to publish like a diverse set of voices. So you have your established names, but it also allows you to publish newer voices, which is, I think, really nice. But we have seen, certainly in the last few years, that the popularity of this genre, it is almost like a genre now, is really high.
So is that the reason why you have another imprint now at
That's
Penguin?
right, yeah. So Penguin Veer is set up for this, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we hope to read many more stories set in the armed forces now. Yes, coming back to you, Aditi. The women in combat. So your protagonist, although she's a signals officer, she plays an active role in the combat area, right? So I just wanted to know from you, do you think our women officers are ready for combat roles?
I'm not the right person to answer that. You should answer that. But I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Right?
what we want. Yes.
In my head, somebody who's not taken, not been through that rigorous training, in my head, if someone's done that, if someone's cracked the SSB, which is hands down one of the toughest interviews to go through, if somebody's cracked the written exam and then cracked SSB, gone through a rigorous 11-month to a year-long training, which includes physical training, which can break a lot of people, at least would break me. And
No, it wouldn't. You just think it would, but it doesn't.
so
You survived that, yes.
I thank you. In my head, I would think that they are ready, right? They're trained for it. Like it's like I've trained for 2 years to be a doctor, but now I'm something else. By choice is fine. By limitation should not be fine, is what I think, right? If I'm something and I want to do something else, if it's my choice, great. But if I'm forced to do it, or if there is a limitation to the role, or if there is no opportunity after that training, I would think they're ready. They should be. But I don't know. Also, things are changing in that front as well. Although I've obviously fictionalized it a lot, and she is in combat, and she's there with the para-SF unit, and although there also I wanted to keep it a little, close to reality. So she's there also as the third part of the quadron, and with her signal set, and she's there tracking signals. But then, when you read the book, you'll find out how she's involved in combat. But I think they are ready. What do you think?
That's for another time, another discussion, perhaps. All right, so continuing on the same line, now I'm sure you all are aware that I think it was in September 2021 that women cadets now also have started training at the National Defense Academy. So I'm sure there are a lot of things going to change about, when there are women now who will probably become commanding officers, brigade commanders, and generals, yes, they have become, yes. So, so how do you think, Aditi, how do you think it will change the armed forces? Do you think that there'll be, what kind of changes do you think with a lot of women in the armed forces?
I think a role is a role. I think if the army right now, and you know it better than me because you've served there, I think it is not very friendly to the other gender right now. Just in terms of infrastructure as well, right? Where you live, the accommodations, when you are out on exercises, so the tent and every other system.
I think those things have all changed now, and they've become quite accommodative. And I think from the time that I served, that was back in '94, and to the present day, I think there's a lot of difference. So I think there's much. I mean, they're much more welcoming now. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what is. Yeah.
And I think with women coming into the forces more and more, and women coming in as at a position of power, like there are women commanding officers now, and they're commanding their own platoons and all. I think it will bring more inclusivity and more a different way of probably running a command. But I've not met anyone. I'm yet to meet a commanding officer. A woman commanding officer. I would love to meet and have this conversation with them, because I'm sure there is a different set of challenge for them as well.
Right. In fact, just yesterday or day before, there was this news that a lady officer is now commanding a ship. Yeah. So that's you can see it's a very big step, the first ever woman. Yes. So now, Deepthi, I would like to ask you, this book. It's a very sensitive portrayal of a Veer Nari, and while editing this book, now you somehow tend to be deeply affected. As a reader, I was considering what the protagonist is going through. So while you're editing, as an editor, how do you, how much of involvement and how do you do the editing part, like what to keep, what not to keep, how to scale up something, how to scale down the others? How does that work for you?
It is difficult, but I guess, so I read it through once, so then all that emotion is out of the picture. So then you're like racing through the parts that are, that are really heartbreaking. And then I get down to the job of like, okay, I get some distance from it, and then I'm able to, and I think it goes back and forth as well in time. So there were those things that we needed to work on. And I think once I've read it, then I can like step back and I can sort of see it in a wider picture, and then I can point out things that I think needed to be cut down. I think there wasn't that much cutting, I have to say, right?
I have forgotten. The process is complete blank to me. But I remember us taking, I think, a few fat paragraphs out of just her grief, because we thought it's yeah.
All right, okay. Oh, coming to the research, Aditi. Now in this book, I must tell you all that she has done wonderful research about counter-insurgency operation and about, the training at the Officers Training Academy, then the terrain at Jammu and Kashmir. And I think she's got it perfect. So I just want to understand from you, Aditi, how did you go about doing the research as to how, even the terrorist organizations, how they work? I was surprised. How did you, gather information about that and all the research that you've done for the book? How did that come about? Did you visit some of these areas, or you had interviewed people, or how did you do it?
Thank you for saying that. It was because coming from you, somebody who served, it means a lot. Because I've been told, I met someone who's retired as a Lieutenant General recently. I was telling you yesterday. And he said, where did you get the CICT ops details from? Like, how did you nail it? It's really like close to. And he was telling me, your husband's not a para-SF commander. How do you know? But I spoke with a lot of people. I spoke with, I think, 17 people, and I just completely told them that give me 5 hours, each 5, 6, whatever, minimum 5, and I just grilled them. Thank you to them. Most of them are serving officers, and 3 of them were, have been involved in operations and in the valley and stuff like that. So they were able to give some insights, but also a lot of what they have is I'm not clarified for a lot of information, right? So whatever is out in the public domain is what we can write about, or what they can tell me about. So I also read a lot of books. Penguin Veer came to my rescue as well, right? Also a book by Shivarur and Rahul. That is India's Most Fearless. That book is also very deep, because it's real. It's got to be, because it's real accounts. But that is information that is out there. So also I met a weapon specialist to find out what kind of weapons it is. So if it's a sniper, what will be the MM, or so yeah, stuff like that. The places I visited, I've been to my fair share in places in Kashmir. So the valley I know. But so in the climax scene, there is this river, Kishanganga. Yes. So, but I've been there in June, right? I've seen the area in June. And this is 4 or 5 years back. Now I'm cut to 2022 when I'm writing the end scene where the river has a big role to play. And I'd written that it is December and the river is frozen. And that was the first draft, which Deepthi also would have read. The entire scene was played out differently. But then I fortunately got to speak with somebody who was posted in the area. And they said, ma'am, the river never freezes, that river never freezes. So, so we had to change the entire scene then. But yeah, so that is the kind of research. Also, I spoke with 2 journalists and read a lot of books. I've been to OTA, I've been to, like I said, but some things I spoke with a lot of people and they gave me details. So that's how it is.
So you spoke to some OTA cadets also to get the training right?
3 of them.
Great, because she got it, Yes. So the OTA training, otherwise it's very difficult to understand what a cadet goes through. The mental makeup of a cadet who goes through training at the OTA, and she nailed it. Okay. So yeah, about the research, I wanted to ask you, Deepthi. Now, when she has done her research, so as her editor, how much of inputs, or how do you check the correctness, or how do you go about the research editing of the research part that she's done?
Yeah, no, some of it is like you're looking, like if it's stuff that you can find online, just dates that you're checking, or
Right.
just the explanation of certain words, that's what you do. But otherwise, I know Aditi, so I know that like that is not like it's not made up. So it was okay. That was my input, and also to just tell her where she needed to expand on something, or if it's not clear, or can you add something? Yeah, that was pretty much it.
All right. Another question to you, which I'm sure many of our members in the audience would like to ask you specifically. I think I'll ask you beforehand. Is about how someone who wants to get published, how could they go about it? Do they approach an agent, or could they get in touch directly with you? How would
Both ways. I think you can get in touch with an agent, and you can. You could submit, I think all the publishing houses will have details on how to submit a manuscript online. So it's I know it feels daunting, but it can be done.
All right.
Or you can contact me, because anyone who contacts me, I send them Deepthi's way. So, and how did I get to Deepthi's way? Through Kiran, who's sitting right here. Yeah, so this also is an example of women supporting women, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly, yes.